Dr. Prasanna.
Hello, good morning.
Mm,
Can you hear me, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to start with the introduction first, and then after that, I'll call you.
Okay, can.
Right, it's 9 a.m. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining this training organized by the Center for Professional Development, CPD, IUM. I am Dr. Raini from the Learning Design Unit, CPD, and I will be your moderator for this training. Before we start our session, let's recite Kitab Al-Fatihah. Alhamdulillah. So for today's training, the title is Promoting Classroom Participation and Interactions Through Assessment, and we are blessed with a renowned excellent speaker in this field, Dr. Prasanna Ramakrisnan from the University Technology Mara UiTM. And inshallah, the duration will be 3 hours via Zoom, i.e. from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Before we start, let me give you the overview of today's training and introduce your speaker. So let me share the screen first. Okay. For the introduction, the active participation and student interaction are crucial for effective learning. This training program equips educators with strategies to design assessments that not only evaluate learning, but also foster a dynamic and engaging classroom environment. What you will get from this training: first, understand the importance of classroom participation and interaction for student learning. Explore various assessment methods to promote active participation. Develop and implement a participation grading rubric. Utilize technology tools to enhance participation interaction. And the last one, to foster a positive and inclusive classroom environment that encourages participation from all students. Now let me introduce you to our speaker, Dr. Prasanna Ramakrisnan. She is a senior lecturer at College of Computing, Informatics and Mathematics, University Technology Mara, UiTM. She is also currently the head of Information Technology Services at the Institute of Continuing Education and Professional Studies. Additionally, she is involved in national level guidelines development workshops and is currently an active member of Research Network 1, e-learning in ASEM, Asia-Europe Meeting Lifelong Learning Hub. Her wide experiences and involvement in technology-supported teaching and learning can be seen through the responsibility she shouldered from 2006 to 2016 as a trainer, associate fellow, and department head at Island Center UiTM. She has been involved in innovations, publications, and sharing sessions to improve the quality of teaching and learning using technology. Her contribution to teaching and learning extended to students outside her classroom and educators, earned the trust of other faculty members, and constantly called for training for their educators. For the awards, she received various awards from international and national invention, innovation, and design, IID competitions, and published papers related to improvement in the quality of teaching and learning. Her teaching case using the modified flipped classroom approach was nominated as a finalist at the 7 E-Learning Excellence Awards that run alongside the European Conference on E-Learning in Berlin, Germany from 28 to 29 October 2021. Her dedication, commitment, and contribution to academic excellence earned recognition from UiTM and also the national level. She was awarded the Dynamic Lecturer Award 2015 and the E-Learning Award 2018 and the Teaching Award Technology 2019 at University Academic Award. She also received the Teaching Award Applied Science in the 14th National Academic Award held on 24th March 2022 and the Master Teacher of the Year in Postgraduate Awards 2022 held on 28 June 2022 in the United Kingdom. Very impressive background, Dr. Prasanna. So before we allow her to start, don't forget, you will receive 3 CTD points, okay? And then when you do this, you need to fill in the I-10. We will share with you the link 15 minutes after Dr. Prasanna starts. And then you must stay in the Zoom, okay, for a minimum of certain duration, and to fill in the evaluation form within the 24 hours. And please do not forget that we need to take photos, okay? So please get ready for the photos to be taken at the end of training. So without further delay, let's welcome Dr. Prasanna Ramakrisnan.
Thank you, Farani, for the intro. Okay, that's quite a long intro actually. Okay, so to be simple, I'm just an educator like everyone who are here today. So we have about, I think about 60 plus participants. So just a educator, same like y'all. I started my career as a, teacher, teaching students on, the courses. My area of teaching is on multimedia computing, practical-based courses. And also recently I have started teaching data science student on learning analytics and also data analytics. So this is my background, as what Parani was telling. And besides that, I'm also engaged in teaching and learning delivery. We're looking into the technology related to the delivery for UiTM. So managing the learning management system. So the entire learning management system that UiTM is using now is actually under my responsibility. I have about 6 programmers that's working, throughout to develop, maintain, and so on. So that's briefly about me. So why I'm here today is nothing to do with my portfolio. It's just more on sharing what I've been doing in my classes, especially on my, undergraduate and postgraduate classes. So before I start, let me share my screen. I think the link is also given. You can see the slides is already there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's there. So if you want a direct link, I can give also the direct link to this app. Okay, let me share it in the chat. So the direct link is also there. Those of you who want to get a direct link, a PDF is already shared. You can download from there. Okay. So why are we here today is to look into assessment design. So why is it assessment design is very important in teaching and learning? So most of the time, the biggest component in any teaching and learning, any courses, there's 2 important components that we will always focus. One is on the teaching delivery itself, how we want to embark in the teaching delivery. And the second one is the assessment. So assessment play a very important role because the evaluation of the teaching or the content is basically done through the assessment. And this assessment need to be basically aligned to whatever you are doing. So that's what we're going to see, how basically we're going to have a line-based assessment according to the required level of what we call as Bloom, because we have cognitive, we have, psychomotor, we have affective. So whenever we want to design how we want to make sure that it's aligned according to that. This is not, what I say that, very seldom we see, but most of the time, whenever we go to any institution, this is what we encounter. The alignment of the assessment sometimes is not accurate to the what you're supposed to measure. So if you're supposed to measure cognitive, you must make sure that your assessments are actually measuring cognitive. So we don't want to have something that is not aligned. So what you teach, you're supposed to assess. So that is what is very important. So when you're doing that, right? So another thing that we need to take note that whenever we are doing the assessment, we want the students to participate and also do some kind of interaction with us. We don't want them to be passive because this is a common problem, especially nowadays when we have online teaching delivery. So like what we have now, we have about how many participants? We have about 70 over participants, but we hardly see who is that. The other side. So if in a traditional classroom, you can able to see everyone. But in the online environment, most of the students do not, prefer to switch on their cameras, and they are basically passive behind the screen. So when passive behind the screen, how are we going to engage them? Gauge the attention of the students to participate, because this is a common issue everywhere, not only one university, but it's a common issue that we are talking about. So these are the things that we will look into, and I really hope that you can also share your experience as we go, so that we can learn each other. Maybe there's something that I can learn from you, because it's everything new. Every time I give training, there's also something that I learn from the participants rather than sharing, because our environment are totally different. The way, the teaching and learning goes in every institution, it has a different kind of environment. Although the method is same, but the approach that we use, the way we deliver, the technique, the concepts and everything are different. So maybe there's something that I can learn from you too. So before we can basically move on, I like to have some ice breaking to get everybody moving. So there's a very basic 2 questions that I want to ask the participant today. Very, very simple. So have you been using any techniques, to engage the participants? There's only 2. So when you click, you can see 2 questions. Okay. You can scan, right, the screen. Or I can give you the link straight in the chat so that you can have it. Okay, you can click in the chat. You can also scan the PDF if you want. There's a PDF link. So there's a very simple question. So what are the techniques that you have used or experienced or heard, from others, if you have anything? And the second one is, what do you think the most important factor that influenced the students' participation in the assessment? So there's 2. So I'll just give you a few minutes for that. Okay, can we have more? How come no response? So you haven't heard anything? So those of you just joining in, okay, you can go to menti.com and use the code. Or there's a chat link that I posted just now. Okay, you can use that. Okay, can we have more? We have. Yeah, you can have more than 1. You can put, I think I have given 3. So you can submit a few answers. So I'll just give you another 2 more minutes. Okay, so let's see what we have. Okay, there's few coming up. Okay, good. Okay, one of the simple technique that you can use or experience that effectively increase student participation in the classroom. So this is a very general question, not only focusing on the assessment, meaning that what are the things that you can do, okay? Of course, some of you say that you ask simple question, the ambience, pop quizzes, lectures, talk about other things, right? So there's a few answers already there coming in. So when we talk about technique or method that you can use in the classroom to, gauge the students, not only the participation in teaching and learning and also in the assessment, what are the things that you can do? Okay, asking questions is something that everybody does, like what I did now. So we have about 90 over participants. So the response that you get is not that much, maybe due to some of them are still joining and so on. But if you do it the same thing in the classroom, when you ask question like, student, do you have any questions? Or you ask them, you might have about 60 over students, you ask them some questions, you end up getting one or two response. Am I right? Have you seen like anywhere like all the students started answering? Pernah? Ada dalam kelas?
Pernah.
Pernah kan? Okay. Kenapa ada yang nampak satu soalan saja? You can see both, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is very common, very common, meaning that whenever you have open discussion or whenever you have question and answer, it's always a very common thing that you see that the response that you get from the students or the participation level will be slightly slower. So how you can gauge their attention? So basically in my classroom, what I do is I try to have this what we call as gamified method. Actually, it's a totally different training all itself. Gamified meaning that you try to gamify the process. Like example, if the students ask questions, I do give them some points. If the student answer question, I do give some points. So what these points are used, okay, there's always a process that you can design, but this particular process you can tell the students or advise the student at the beginning of the semester. Okay, this is the way the class is, it will be going. So if you participate in the classroom, you're given some points. So what these points are? So usually student will be asking, okay, so what if I get the points? So these points usually you can use for extension of due dates. So usually I'll have a 1 week buffer. So let's say you already have a cutoff, a due date for the assignment on week, let's say week 5 is the due date for your assignment 1, but you can have a leverage of another 1 week spare. So this 1 week extension, you can have some point system to extend. So 1 day extension like 50 experience points or 100 experience points. So these are the things that you can set. So when you set like this, eventually the students will be, excited and also they want to participate, right? So this is like a motivation that you give the student, right? To encourage the participation. What I'm explaining to you is only one way of doing it, which I practice in the classroom. So it's not that difficult. You can manage it in using a simple Excel, right? Simple Excel, you just download the students' list inside. And whenever the students ask question, you can have like, code, color code, or you can have a symbol ask question, reply to somebody's question. So I usually give students an option. So when a student asks question, so I don't respond to the student first. I will ask them first, okay, students, anyone know the answer or you want to share your experience? So they will do the sharing. It's okay if wrong. Okay, some say that what if wrong? Can we give them the points? You should encourage them to talk or participate. So if wrong, you correct them. So basically what you are doing is you become a facilitator in the classroom and you engage them in the discussion. So rather than having a simple, simple way of, asking the students and ask them to respond, you can have this kind of method to enhance the participation in the classroom. That's one. So other than that, you can also use like, of course, yes, you can use a lot of tools. So what you see is Mentimeter. Mentimeter I've been using for many years. And this is a free tool that you can use. And it can collect response from the students. And it's a very good tool, especially if you want to get some feedback from the students. So you're teaching some topic, and in between you can have, Mentimeter, because Mentimeter, you can put 2 questions. So 2 questions is sufficient to get some feedback from them, right? So yes, gaming is what I was talking about. So rather than having the game itself, you can have this. I will show you some tools later at the end that you can use for this kind of game based, where you can have your assessment and you can have a different environment for them to, experience whenever they want to use the assessment. So I'll also show a few when we have time. So at the end, I'll show on that so that you have some idea on that. So this is one way, but we do have other ways that you can also use to engage your students. So that's the, how you do the engagement part, or you can increase the participation. As you go, you can see more assessment that's coming. I will share with you what I do in the classroom. And the factor, right? So the factor is very general, but every cases, of course, when you have a set of students, the factor might be different depending on what type of students are you are teaching and so on. Undergraduate student, they might have different factors that can influence. Postgraduate student will be slightly different. So when you're teaching this kind of students, the level of students also will be influencing the factors. So undergraduate students are more, driven by certain motivation. They are considered like, those who are coming in first semester, second semester. So they're driven by some kind of motivation, right? So that, can influence. So other than using the gamification method, you can also go a bit further. If you have like physical classroom, so if you see the student is very frequent in participation, I don't know where I keep my box, I think in the car. There's, small badges that you can buy, smiley badges in Shopee, very cheap, which you can carry along with you. So whenever student really participate, you can just give them badge. So they like to pin it in their bag, and they like to show off to the students, no? So these are the things that you can do in physical. It's not very expensive. You can buy in a bulk, in Shopee and so on, and it's very cheap. So they are driven more by motivations. There are also some, they do ask me, do we want to use the carrot rabbit, that you have to give the rabbit a carrot so that it will move and it will do things. I will tell them that you always think your student as your child. So in your house, so how you treat them. So when you ask them to do something, there's no such thing that they will do immediately unless they have some kind of motivation factor or things like that. So you try to adapt some kind of environment that you can fit into your class so that you can motivate them in, engage them in the classroom participation. So these are the things needed. The injection of motivation is needed in the classroom. And this can vary according to the environment you basically set up, right? So if you do a normal teaching, normal pop quiz, a normal way how we've been doing, so sometimes it doesn't work because the students are now more advanced. So what you have to do is we have to start thinking of what I call as rethinking of your teaching delivery, rethinking of your assessment. Because assessment is no more like, a traditional way. You can have alternative assessment nowadays. So there's a lot of options available now for us to pick up. So if you want to evaluate the domain, you can have alternative assessment to actually support the student participation in the assessment itself. Sometimes when you give them forum, you put some questions, there's no response. Why? Because they are not engaged. They are not motivated. So these are the things that you need to identify and inject so that the student can participate more in the classroom. So this is just an intro. So intro pun selalu saya ambil a bit longer. So what we will be seeing, so before we move on, we need to understand the classroom dynamics. So what is the classroom dynamics? Classroom dynamics is whenever students want to participate in the classroom, there is a few types interaction. This is a common one, wherever we go, this is what we see, the common interaction. The first is student and student interaction. So now I want to ask you, student and student interaction, we don't talk about the assessment first, we talk about the delivery first. So how basically you encourage the student and student interaction in the classroom? Anyone want to share? Group discussion, okay. So group discussion, yes, you can have a group discussion or group activity, where you can put 2 students if in a small group, small class. If you have a bigger class, you can, have that. But when you do group discussion, the students' interaction is only one small group. That means if you have 5 students, only that 5 students will be interacting, right? Am I right? Correct me if wrong. Yes. So how you want to make sure that the entire classroom, basically everyone have the opportunity to interact, right? I like to use this case whereby I use station-based learning. Station-based learning, it's a question that I give to the students. I group them into like 5 groups or 6 groups, depending on the classroom. In UiTM, basically our maximum student in per class is about 30. Right? Only in online environment, we might have slightly bigger. So if I'm doing in the classroom, what I do is I break them into few groups, right? So I give them a discussion question for them to discuss. So what I do is I rotate the station. Rotate the station meaning that I ask them to move in the class. So once they finish the discussion, I will supply them with the, mahjong paper or any papers and ask them to write on top. So what I do, once I give them about 10 to 15 minutes to finish the task, and I ask them to rotate. So they move to the next station. So when they move to the next station, they interact with the other group of students that's working in that, topic, similar topic, and they try to enhance the learning there. So they move the station until they come back to the original one. So when they come back to original one, they will realize that there is some things that's missing in their initial discussion as they move on. So this is another way that you can foster or engage student-student interaction in a bigger group. So if you want to do it in the same way in the online environment, you can also do. So online environment, you have to have breakout rooms. So in the breakout rooms, and you must explain to the students, and also you must give them a proper handout saying that how the workflow works. This is very important. Instruction to the student must be very clear. So when we don't give a very good instruction, then the student will be a bit confused. So while I'm explaining, if you feel that you want to adapt any of the things that I'm talking about, you can also text me or contact me for templates. I do have my classroom templates. I don't mind sharing with you. So you can tell me what you want to do. I can share the templates. So templates meaning that I already have a standard instruction, what I give the students. So what is the first step, second step, third step? So they just follow the steps that's given in the template instructions. So student and student interaction, think about extending the interaction not only to the smaller group, but now to the entire class. So how you want to make them collaborate among them in a bigger group rather than smaller one. So that's one to think of. Second is student instructor interaction. So how basically you will do that in the classroom? Anyone? You want your student to interact with you, right? In the classroom. So rather than you be the person who's talking, but now you want the students also involved. So usually what kind of interaction you do?
For me, because we have group projects, right? So
Yes.
maybe once in a while in the class, we ask if there is any progress or updates about the group project, and then maybe I'll dedicate about 20 minutes and then go group per group, and then they will keep updating. Then they will do the much talking compared to me. And then I'll do the summarization at the end, and then the common question asked by each group, and then I'll announce to the whole class.
Okay. So that's one way of doing it, meaning that you can have a few ways, but some of you say presentation and so on. So here at this moment, whenever you have student and instructor, interaction, try to be a facilitator, like what your friend was sharing just now, one of the lecturer was sharing. So you don't talk so much, get the student to communicate, right? So of course, I'll share with you some of the assessment that I do in the class for all the interaction. But now we are trying to understand what we can do to promote the participation in general, not only assessment, but generally, because teaching and learning need to be improved first, the delivery, then only assessment comes in. So if we have problem at the beginning itself, then it's very difficult for us to have the next one. So I'm just going through in the chat for a while. So let's see what they have. Some say presentation. Okay, just now a friend of you said group project. And then they say that, yes, pause a second, all right? Then throw critical questions related to the real life situation. This is very good because I also try to use in the classroom. So whenever you're having some contents that you're giving to the students, you have to pause for a while and relate to the real things that's happening outside, right? So like example, when I'm just sharing with you, when I'm teaching a topic that related to compression. So compression is how a data that is compressed. So when you have text, how it is compressed. When you have graphic, how it is compressed. Compressed meaning that the file is, reduced to further. So what I do is I try to, gauge their attention so that they can visualize. I try to bring them in the real life scenario. So I ask the students, okay, so you're using WhatsApp and you're using Telegram, and you have an image that you share in WhatsApp and you have an image that you share in Telegram. So why is it people prefer to use Telegram on the images, not WhatsApp? So it's a question that you throw to the student and let them to think. So this is very important. When they start thinking, they try to connect to the content that you have delivered. So the interaction is taking place. So throw some, questions, let them to think, let them to communicate. And when you throw this question, make sure you have the answer. Not that, okay, think about it, next week we can discuss. No. So it's better for you to clear them there and ask them to think and correct whatever need to be corrected. So, okay, so that's one of it. And then I use hybrid post question. Also, you can do that. But sometimes when you have this kind of, write something, write your thoughts, some students prefer to, talk. Some students prefer to write. So maybe what you can do is like what your friend was telling here, you can have hybrid. So those who want to talk, they can, voice out. Those who feel comfortable in writing, they can do, because you must understand students have different learning styles. Some students prefer to write, some students prefer to speak. So you can have both the ways when you want to have the interaction with the student. So, and lastly, this one says that in between the lecture, I use discussion where I discuss how much understanding. So this is also good. So at the end, so I will encourage that when you have a session that's like 2 hours or 3 hours, try to chunk it, like what we do in micro level learning. So once you finish one topic, you try to get the feedback from the student. So either you can ask questions or you can put the polling like Mentimeter inside to see their understanding. So After every small topics, try to have a pause before you go on to the next topic. So not that straight everything one shot. So this will help them in understanding. When the student understand, you can do the measurement. So how you can do the measurement to get the feedback is by having polling, some pop quizzes and things like that can be done. So that will be very nicely organized and student have time to cool down a bit rather than, just 2-3 hours lectures. 2-3 hours lectures in online environment is not that easy. Yeah? Like example now, you're having training for 3 hours, 2 hours online. Sometimes we get tired. So why tired? Because somebody is talking and you're looking at the screen, your eyes get tired. So to avoid all that, we have some kind of interaction like what I do now. So I stop, I make sure I ask some questions, get you all to involve rather than, moving everything one shot. So another thing is when you're dealing with the online environment, it doesn't matter assessment or you're doing a teaching delivery, try to make it simple. That means not to have so many things in your screen. Try to use explanation. And of course, the additional learning material can be given to the students for extra reading. So they are not like school children, where you need to give them everything. So you can always have a supplement material that's already ready for them. So they can use that whenever they want to do the assessment. So that's on the student and instructor. I believe in, when student and instructor, the role of instructor is not a teacher, but the role of instructor now is a facilitator. So try to become more a facilitator. So that is why that in this kind of interaction, I always suggest to the lecturers, look into flipped classroom environment. So flipped classroom environment is very useful, especially when you're doing the student and instructor interaction, whereby you can have your material uploaded. So if you already have more micro-credentials, all the material that you have done, so difficult, you have done all the material. So you can use it as part of the classroom in the flipped classroom environment. And when the student comes to the classroom, what you can do is you become the facilitator and you start doing assessments. Assessments like feedback. So example, they have done some learning. So when they come to the classroom, you do a simple classroom activity to see the understanding of the students on the topic they've learned. Or you can also do a small quizzes or something like that to see how the performance of the students, whether they really understand or not. So when you do that, you already know that where's the level of students. So anything that is lacking, you can fill it up additional ad hoc during the classroom. So now the role of the instructor become very, what I say, more work. And you have to, ready to do any kind of changes in the classroom, because when the student comes in, you plan something, but sometimes you can't execute, right? And of course, they say that in reality, the absence of technology, right? So you have to go back to the conventional method. Yes, correct. Because for me, although I'm in the technology base, I always believe that technology is used to support. Technology is not everything, because when you want to inclusive all the students, that means you want to make sure none of your students is left behind. You must make sure that your design need to be supported by all the students. So if you have students coming from, a background that no internet connection, don't have a proper, tools to work on, then you must make sure you stand by for both kind of learning, right? So that's why I said, you see, it's a very good thing. Of course, now I don't have the kind of leverage to bring the students outside. But when I was teaching in Malacca campus for a while. And at that time, I used to bring my student outside the classroom. That means some topics will be taught outside the classroom when I have morning classes. So I put them into groups. They will be in the outdoor environment and they will be doing the discussion there. That works perfectly good, because one, it activates the students and they become more active and they move around, and they are in the outdoor environment, they are more relaxed, right? So these are the things that you can actually do whenever you have the student and instructor, right? And lastly, the student and content interaction. Student and content interaction is basically looking into how you want to engage them in the content. So before you can do the assessment, you must engage them in the content first. So is there anyone want to share how basically you do the student content? Because student content, there will be no instructor involved most of the time. So it's solely student and content. So what kind of situation usually you come across this kind of interaction? Videos, okay. Other than that, add puzzle, interactive video, yes, can. Sometimes certain, I'm not sure how about your university. Some universities don't subscribe to a lot of tools. So what happens is sometimes you have to use what you have, right? So for this kind of context, sometimes I tell them you can use a simple Google form or Google slide, or you can use any digital boards that you have, things like that. You can just compile them together. So student content interaction, meaning that how basically you design online modules. So your online modules focusing on content oriented, and you must make sure that you must have a assessment, right? So that's when the self-assessment comes in. So whenever students do, you are not there to assist them. That means you're not there to ask questions. You're not there to correct them. So the best way of learning when student and content interaction is when you're designing a content, okay? For online, now mostly people are designing for ODL, they are designing self-instructional material, or they are designing for MOOC, because MOOC is also fully online, or micro-credential. So it doesn't matter which is the module you are designing for. Make sure that you have content that's in chunk, meaning that one small subtopic, you have your videos, or you can have your interactive module, or you can have anything. So after that, you have a self-assessment. So self-assessment is, yes, correct. The self-assessment like quizzes that, test your own understanding, right? Sometimes you can have a question, a recap question for the students. But I don't recommend to have a recap question which is open-ended, because you need to be there to respond. If you have a smaller group like 20 students, 30 students, fine. But what if you have 100 students, 120 students, and you ask open-ended questions and you leave it, not responded? Then it will be a problem, because students not sure what they have done is correct or not. So when you have a larger group and you want to design an interaction that's student and content, the assessment should be self-assessment, automated kind, a simple objective you can use. What else you can use? You can use Kahoot. Kahoot can be do the homework type also you can do. Quizzes also you can do. So these are the things that you can add in betweens, and you can have that. And some say that, they come to me, they say that they don't have the, leverage of having Mentimeter license, all this license tool. I say, don't worry. Your Google Slide is very powerful. You have a lot of plugins that is available that allow you to do the assessment inside. So you can embed, like simple quizzes inside. You can embed some, objective questions inside. So you can do all that in your student content interaction. So you can also do a very nice Google slide, and you can design some content. Then you can have some self-assessment, and then content again, and self-assessment again. So this way you actually engage the student. So not only, passive, they are interacting with the content. So not only looking at the video, after they finish watching the video, you can end it. So when you use Google Slide, especially those who are using videos, you can put a Google video. Then the next slide can be some, embedding some questions. And then you can have some content, and then embedding some questions. So you can do in such way. Those of you who have LMS, in LMS also able to do, because they do have plugins. So in UiTM, we have LMS. So we we can actually arrange our content, then the self quizzes module inside. So the students actually follow whatever given in the interaction. So these are the three main, interactions that's available in the classroom. Basically, can encourage the student participation. So when you design it proper in a proper way, following the bloom that's already said, obviously the participation will be there. So that is why I say that now it's time for us to rethink of our delivery and also assessment. So don't think that, just going into the classroom, teaching the student, after them giving the quizzes can basically help in their understanding. No. So due to the nature of the student now, they are getting content before us, meaning that if you're not there, also the students still getting the content. With the AI tools that's available nowadays, students are getting a lot of information. So rather than what you give, they have also extra information to the students. So so what our task now is the facilitator. Facilitator meaning that guide the students a proper way of learning, a proper way of assessment, so that they can participate in the classroom and enhance their understanding on the topic that you're teaching. So when you do a proper interaction, of course, each interaction comes with the assessment, right? So when we talk about the assessment, so now we go one by one. And if you have any questions, please ask me. These are some of assessment that I do in the classroom, but not only limited to this, it's depending on the objective. Remember, whenever you're designing your assessment, you are mapping or aligning your assessment to a certain learning objective or outcome, right? So usually what I do is I first thing, I try to understand the learning outcome first. Is it cognitive? Is it affective? Or is it psychomotor? Then I look into the level and the design will be according to that. So example, so whenever you have your cognitive, so a lot of people say that cognitive is only used for tests, only used for quizzes, but you can also rethink the way it is done. You can also have a group project that is actually measuring the cognitive domain. So you give them a certain task and ask them to apply the knowledge inside the group work. So you can also have alternative kind of assessment to measure the cognitive domain. So don't limit yourself only to quiz and tests, but you can go beyond by having these group projects for the students, and this group project can be used. So in my my course that I'm teaching, I have changed quite a lot of way it is assessed. So rather than having final examination, I moved to final assessment. So final assessment whereby I have the flexibility to tweak my assessment, not focus on the test base, but I can also focus on this kind of methods or techniques that you can use. But most importantly, make sure that the alignment of the objective and the measurement must be same. So I came across this issue, right? When you are measuring cognitive domain, the evaluation also should be to the cognitive domain. So when you're doing the rubric, here comes the rubric. Rubric, of course, we will go in further in a while. So when you're doing a group project, you have given a group project and you want to measure cognitive domain. So you want to measure on applying. So you have given a task to the student and you want to see whether they're able to apply or not. So example, I'm teaching color models, and color models, there's few models. So I give them a task. I ask the students to test each of the color models, apply and see what is the outcome, right? So they do it in a group. So when you want to evaluate this, you need to create a rubric to evaluate the same domain again. So you cannot do something else. So that's why the alignment should be there. So it's very important. So we will go through on creating that later after understanding the assessment. So that's on the group project. You can also do peer teaching session. So peer teaching sessions usually I do for undergraduate students. So when there is some topics that I find it very a lot of time the student having difficulty in that particular topic. So what I do is I put them in a pair or in a smaller group and I assign them the topics. So when I assign the topics, so they will prepare the topics and they prepare to teach other students. So they will come into the class, the next class, and then they will prepare their materials and they start teaching. So what I do is I go back to my role, not the teacher, facilitator. So when they start, teaching, so if I feel that, there's something lacking or it's not clear in the explanation, so once they finish, I will try to wrap up again, try to come in and, modify whatever needed and, give them some extra examples and so on, so that the others can also understand. So during the peer teaching sessions, you can also have peer evaluations. So meaning that the students also can give feedback on the content they have, whether the student understand or not, whether whatever given is sufficient or not. You can also do a simple survey to see whether the peer teaching session is working or not, right? And lastly is another assessment that you can also think of when student and student interaction is peer review. Peer review usually I use for my master students. So when the students finish their assignments, so what I do is I give them like 1 week. So group 1 have to send their assignment to group 2, get the feedback. So this feedback will be a constructive feedback form whereby the students basically filled up. And once they have corrected based on the feedback, they will enclose in their report as a appendix. So that I know that the students have done some peer reviews and some groups has looked into it. So peer review works very well, not for undergraduate students, for master students, because they learn how to correct, number 1, and look into the gap. Because master students, they need to know what is the gap in their, whatever they're doing. So this helps a lot. So when they give a constructive feedback, basically you are looking into the improvement of the assignment. So eventually they start learning and they also start correcting their own work. Oh, they notice that, oh, these are the things is also missing in my work. I can add on. So usually I give 1 week for peer reviews before the submission. So I put a date, okay, week 5, everyone must submit to your, assigned group for peer review. So once peer reviewed, after 1 week, you need to submit to me in the system. So these are the things that you do. So what happens is student and student are doing interaction. So when they're doing interaction, they're not only doing in learning, but they're doing also in assessment, right? And of course, don't ask them to mark because they're not the right person to mark. But what you can do is you have given them the rubric. They know these are the things supposed to be there. So they give a review based on a peer who's studying together. So what they feel that is missing, so they will give some feedback. So this is a few things that basically I practice for the undergraduate and also postgraduate students. So now the question is there something else that you've been doing in your classroom? Maybe 1 or 2, not this, something else. An assessment that is designed where the student and student interact. Anyone? Other than these 3? No? Okay. Anyone used one of it or not?
Yes, for the group project.
Okay, so why not you share? Problem-based learning. Okay. Case study. Okay, group project. Okay, problem-based learning is very interesting. I never used it lately, but I did use like few semesters back this problem-based learning. So can we have Lenovo? Lenovo, I don't know who's Lenovo. Can you share how you basically do it in the classroom? Or another person was talking about peer editing essays.
Hi.
Hi.
So when I assign essays to the students,
Yes.
so instead of marking the students' essays directly, I would just pass the essays around, and then they can have a look at their friend's essay, and then they would maybe highlight the parts where they find mistakes, and then they can also find some missing elements in the essay.
Okay, good. So similar to, what I was doing in peer review, but the difference now is I do it for case study whereby student they identify a problem and then they propose a data science solutions. So whether visualizing the data or doing some kind of prediction. So when they finish the entire case, so I'll ask them to pass to the other group to, get some feedback. But here is essay, right? So anything that you can do, you can adapt it in a different environment, right? So the problem-based learning, right? So here, clinical case study to the students, discuss the disease, suitable management, then present what they have discussed. Okay, problem-based learning, usually you can also have some kind of peering session inside. Additionally, when the student present, you can put your students, the other groups, to give some feedback, meaning that you can have some peer review forms that is prepared upfront, and you can ask them to give feedback on the problem-based case they have presented, and then they can collect all the feedback and they can do some improvement. And on top of that, you can also give them the feedback during the presentation. Problem-based learning need to design very carefully, and you must make sure that it is also aligned to the outcome that is needed. So sometimes what happens is problem-based learning, the alignment is not there. Okay, alignment here is two things. One is the question that you're asking the students. Second is the rubrics that you're going to use to assess the question, the answer of the student. So this is very crucial. And in fact, when auditor comes, auditor comes to check also, this will be their two concern when it comes to assessment. Number one, they will check whether the assessment is aligned to the outcome or not. And number two, when you evaluate the assessment, are you evaluating to the same domain and level that is required or not? So this is very important, two things when you're doing. Okay, so I think if you have any other cases that you want to ask me, of course, you can always ask me. But these are the basic things that usually lecturers will do. And also, I also practice in the classroom where I want to encourage the student interaction. So encouraging student interaction do not limit in the teaching and learning alone. Try to bring them into the assessment, engage them in the assessment process. So they are also involved in the part of assessment rather than just doing the submission. They're also involved in the assessment, right? So that's student and student. Any questions? What if we ask students? Yes, you can do that. in the way they think it measures the learning outcome, is it? Yes, you can do that, but usually I don't encourage because the student don't know how to align the assessment to the learning outcome. So what you can do is maybe for the start, you can have what I call is a few different assessments. So personalized. So personalized assessment, which I also practice. So you want to measure the cognitive level or affective level on the assessment. You can give a few types of questions which measure the same. The context also same. Maybe the delivery can be different. So maybe one can be in video, one can be in written. So you can have this kind of method first before asking the students, because the students will tell you some samples methods they prefer, but the alignment should be done by the instructor, because the alignment for the question and also the alignment for the measurement of the assessment need to be done by the lecturer. So if you ask the student to propose, sometimes you will have problem in, later evaluating it. Sometimes the proposed assessment method does not suit the domain that you want to measure. So that's why that usually I don't encourage. But if you want, you can try, but you have to filter. So meaning that you have to sit down and filter which you think that will be suitable for that particular domain, right? Okay. Did I answer the question? Okay. So no more question. We move on to the next one. Okay. This is very interesting when you want to design a student-instructor interaction. That means just now student, you notice that you're not there. You're not there. That means students are basically there. You're coming at the end, right? Now you're involved in the middle itself where the student is doing, you're also coming in. Just now I saw that somebody was telling seminar. Seminar is in student and instructor interaction, right? So let me go through what I practice in the classroom. So for undergraduate students, I prefer to use interactive lectures with polling. So meaning that I want to test their cognitive level, because whenever you're designing your content for delivery in the classroom, so you have a cognitive domain. So the concepts are created for the students to understand on something. But how you know the student really understand through your lectures or not? So what I do in between, I have polling. So I use Mentimeters. So after I finish a few slides, and then I ask the students to answer. Or sometimes I even use Google Forms or Microsoft Forms to get some feedback on their understanding. So when they do that, immediately I know that, whether the student understand or not. So if they don't understand, I can just have some tweak in the content. Immediately I can highlight few things that is important. So interactive lectures with polling works very well, because when you're giving the lectures, you can have some kind of questions that's coming in between, right? The second interesting one, seminars, but in concept of teaching, they call it as Socratic seminars, but actually we refer at seminar. I do this for my master level student, whereby I give them some assignments that measures the cognitive level. So we work on technology, a lot of technology on, technology that related to AI, technology related to data science and so on. So some of the topics are given to the students and they will prepare the materials. And at the end of semester, there will be a seminar that is organized. So in that particular seminar, they will do the presentation. So you as an instructor will be there and you will be analyzing the content first, and you will see whether the content is okay or not. And when they're presenting in the seminar, you also prepare some constructive, questions for the students so that, you can ask the students, and other students also will be asking. So in this kind of concept, I did notice some of you said you have the seminar. It works very well, but not for undergraduate, because I tried with undergraduate, because our undergraduate students, usually they're coming from, a background of Asasi, or sometimes very less student coming from diploma level. So the understanding is not there. They need more the lecturers to be present, but it works very well for master level. In here, in my context that I'm teaching, maybe in your context, it might work in for your even undergraduate, you can try. So week 14, when you do the seminar, now it's online. So you can do it online, and a lot of other students also can join and learn. And you're actually doing two things. One, you're improving the assessment. You're rethinking, redesigning the assessment. Number two, you're also encouraging the students to participate, right? So it builds the confidence in the students, and they are able to present to everybody, right? So this is facilitated kind of seminar. So you will be there throughout. You will be guiding them, but at the end, they will do the presentation. So that's Socratic seminar, which I use in for my master level, and this is used to measure certain domains, right? And last is common one, everybody use. I'm very sure you also use online discussion forums. Online discussion forum, why I put it last? Because sometimes very difficult to engage student in the discussion, especially online. You put some questions, but you hardly see some feedback, right? But if you're teaching in OUM, it's different, because OUM, they rely so much in the online discussion forums, and lecturers are required to post certain number of questions, and also you have to reply the questions. And it's very important you give very quick feedback. That means you must give immediately. So usually we encourage, even in UiTM, we encourage 3 working days, not more than 3 working days. Why 3 working days? We consider Saturday and Sunday. So if the student posts on Friday, sometimes Saturday, Sunday, the lecturer is not available, and they will, reply on Monday. So considering that, we will give them a maximum of 3 days. But some, they say that it should be immediate, like 24 hours, the lecturers have to give the feedback. But whatever it is, online discussion forum is another way of, having some kind of assessment, getting the feedback of the students' learning. You post a question and the student basically answer. So rather than forum, for me, I believe the assessment works. The self-assessment works better in my case compared to online forum. So that is one reason why I don't use it a lot in the classroom. But online discussion forums, I try to use during my class time. So example, during my class time, let's say I have some extra time. So what I do is I post some questions and I tell them, okay, complete this before your class ends. So that 15 minutes, the students work on with 1 or 2 questions. So I like to do that, the online discussion forum, rather than, posting it and giving them 1 week. It doesn't work. I don't know whether it works for you or not, but it really doesn't work. Unless you have like, the leaderboard, you have the badges, that is injected, it might work. If not, you just put a question, leave it there, ask them to answer. It doesn't work, right? So now my question is, have you done something that is not here? That means student instruction, instructor interaction assessment, that's not listed here. Have you done anything that you want to share with us? Anyone? No. Okay. Anyone have used this? You
For
have
me,
used, I think.
For me, I use Padlet. So to ask questions, and then they give the answer in Padlet. I use this for ice breaking basically on the first class. I ask them their learning style, I ask them their hobbies, ambition, what they want to do, what do they want to do in the future, and then I try to relate with the course, all those information, something like that.
Have you done for assessment or not? Meaning that, like example, feedback on the topic that you have teach.
Yes, assignment basically. This is like a bonus mark for them that they have submitted, but then I ask them what do they think about the assignment, and then what they can improve, for example, how to improve the answers, something like that. And then if I find the answers acceptable, then I'll give them as bonus marks.
Okay, so I think it's also possible, right? So whenever you have assessment is not only for evaluation. A lot of people think that assessment is only for evaluation, meaning that you evaluate, but they forget about the feedback on the learning. So assessment can be also used feedback as a feedback of the learning, like self-assessment, this kind of things, not necessarily must be within the evaluation, percentage, but you can modify a bit your delivery so that it will be interesting enough and the student will participate. So like example, Socrative seminar, basically it's not included in the assessment. But at the end, the student that's going to present, that is the one will be included into the evaluation. So along the way, whatever they're doing is basically the feedback of learning. So they learn, they do, and then you give them feedback, they correct. So these are the things, a process. In a process of learning, they do a kind of assessment, but it gives them a feedback on how to improve their learning. So assessment, think it as not only for evaluation, how you can help the student by giving them feedback of their learning. So feedback of the students' learning is very important because they need to know where they're standing. So that is why that I prefer to use flipped classroom. Because flipped classroom, when you do it, basically you will do the learning all taking place outside the classroom. So when they come into the classroom, I like to do assessment in the form of activities and to get feedback of what they have learned, right? And is there any alternative or suggestion assessment to replace the assignment? Yeah, this is what that we are discussing. So when they put assignment as one, of course, in the syllabus, when you see there will be options and they say that individual assignment, group assignments, and so on, right? So the individual assignment, group assignments, you can always change it to anyhow you want, right? As long as you design the assignment and make sure it is inside the domain that is required. So is it cognitive? Is it psychomotor? Or is it, affective? So you need to check that and you design the assignment, right? You can do. And assessment to replace, suggestion assessment to replace assignments. So assignments is very, okay, assignments here, okay, usually there's two things now. One is synchronized and another one is asynchronized now. So synchronized is what usually quizzes, tests, and so on. So I think what the question in the chat is they're focusing on asynchronized. So asynchronized, whatever we are discussing now is asynchronized. So it's depending what type of interaction and what kind of domain that you want to do. So that's why that to suggest is not that easy unless you're able to share with me the domain, the level, then maybe I can do some suggestion and look into what are the alternative way you can design and see whether it works in your classroom or not. So it's very interesting if you have two lecturers teaching the same subject, you can do an alternative assessment design and the other person can use the traditional way and you can see how's the outcome. It's very interesting to see the outcomes. And these things you can actually publish as a paper also, right? So of course, if you have more information, you can give it to me. You can WhatsApp me. I can share the number. You can also put my name, my number will come out. So I can discuss further on that, right? So is it a must to give mark? No. No. Is it a must? No. Like me, I have a lot of self-assessment pop quizzes. I never give them any marks. So it's basically for their self-understanding, self-learning, right? So it's okay. So Doctor, for Socrates seminar, how many SLT you have allocated? Oh, for Socrates seminar, if I'm not mistaken, in my syllabus, it's about 12 SLT, including the student preparation time. Well, you need to go back and see your syllabus, how it is done, then the SLT, right? Okay. So any question before we move on to the last one, which is the, student and content? Okay, no question. But anyway, if you have any questions, you can ask me later. Okay, student content interaction. So when you're doing the assessment, now you're not there, right? There's also no other people. So student content interaction assessment are usually designed for students in ODL environment or in, MOOC or micro-credential environment where there's no facilitator there. So most of the time, no facilitator, they have to learn themselves. So then you have this kind of assessment. So usually you have interactive online modules. So these modules are designed using a learning platform, or maybe you have done differently outside, then you bring inside, and then you have some quizzes inside. So all these will be self-evaluated. So something like self-assessment, but now the modules are more, interactive based. Then you have some, quizzes or some simulations that is, in the form of animation that is available. At the end, you can ask them to drag drop to see their understanding and so on. Then you can also have digital concept maps. This one also I use a lot in the classroom for my students, undergraduate students, right? So I give them some concepts and ask them to visualize the concept because these are multimedia students. We want to train them both the practical and also understanding. So I will ask them, I give them the concepts and I ask them to visualize in one page. So then they will, have the relationship, they put the connection in between them. Sometimes they have, some important points they want to highlight. So they also do it there. You can also do that. Or you can also do a self-paced online tutorials. Self-paced online tutorials I use for my Python programming. Whenever we teach our students on Python, on understanding on Pythons, also we have, this where some videos are created and then we use Google Colapse, where the online tutorial is, set, these are the example. So this is the sample code. Then you run to see how is the outcome. So it allows the students to go through the tutorial in a self-paced. So we have 14 weeks, we have 14 tutorials. So we will put it and the student use their own timing and then they start learning. Some students, they finish faster, some they follow the week, so it's depending. So interactive online module and self-paced online tutorials are slightly different. So the online modules are focusing on the content interactions, so more on content and so on. But here in the self-paced online tutorials, it allows the students to do some kind of practices or exercises. So you can have both. So the student basically interact with the content, but they have some assessment. Assessment must be there, not only for evaluation, for their understanding. So like example, when you're teaching content, you put topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. How you know they understand or not if you don't have a self-assessment there, like quizzes. So you can see the score of quizzes to see whether the student understand. And then the digital map concepts, through the visualization they do, right? And for self-paced online tutorial, you have exercises. In Google Colapse, you already have everything. So how they know they understand or not, they try some sample exercises. So when they try the sample exercises, and you will know that whether the student understand the context that you have given the student or not. So on Python, okay, variable declaration. So what are the samples? And then you give them some exercise to try on. So these are the things that you can, basically do. So whenever you're designing the assessment, focus should be for both, okay? Designing for evaluation, that one is a must. It's already in the syllabus. But now what you want to see is designing for the student feedback to see whether they are understanding the context that you're teaching or not. This is what most of the time is lacking because we tend to focus on the assessment. Okay, assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 1, assignment 2, and then you have test and final exam. Example, this is a standard one usually they use for. That's it, done and over. Nothing else. So you go to the class, you teach in the class, you come back, you ask them to finish the, test, that's it. But you are not looking into the feedback of the students' learning. So you don't know whether the student is learning or not because there's no continuous. So what you're seeing is at the end, one assignment, done deal, that's it. But you're not giving a progressive feedback to the students. So the progressive feedback is very important. So that can be done in the classroom, in your daily teaching, or in the online weekly online classes, or in the online self-learning classes. So the student themselves actually can do the self-assessment, self-paced tutorial to see their understanding. So when they don't understand, they will come back to you to see whether they really understand or not, right? So this is 3. So I'm going to show you one that I designed for my classroom just Monday. No, this is Friday, right? So I did it on Tuesday's class. Okay. So before I move on, let me discuss a summary of it. So when you're designing the assessment, so effective design is very important. So when we discussed 3 just now, what I emphasized over and over, number 1 was the alignment of an assessment. So whenever you're doing an assessment, alignment need to be done to the learning outcome or learning objective. It is very important. So when you do the alignment, then the evaluation of the assessment also must use the similar rubric. You cannot use a different rubric. So this is another issue by itself. Question is one, evaluation is another one. Question and evaluation need to be in the same domain and same outcome need to be tested, right? Formative versus summative, always remember, formative assessment is very important for the feedbacks. So we want to get feedback from the students, they are learning, we need to have this. And second one is the summative for evaluation. So this is what comes at the end, where you test on the students' understanding, and most of the time you give marks. So it will contribute to the student marks, right? Formative assessment, not necessarily, it's just a feedback to the students, right? And last, whenever you design, I also keep telling, you can actively engage the students in the critical thinking and also in the collaboration if you use the right way to engage them. So if you need to motivate them, you motivate them, inject them with some, gamification or some, something, a small matter like a small badges and so on. So you can actually promote more interaction coming in. So it no need to be very difficult. It can be as small as like, giving them simple points. It does not cost you anything, but it requires a little bit more work whereby you need to monitor the point system, right? If you have a research assistant, then the research assistant can do for you. If you have any research assistant working with you, then they can help you to compile everything and then that can be done. So at the end, when the student want to ask for, let's say they want to ask for extension of due dates or some other requirement that's set for the point system, you can basically use that. Okay. So until now, clear? Any questions so far? Okay, haven't. So generally, when you see the type of interaction when you want to participate, so you basically can group them into a few types of assessment. Formative, which give you ongoing feedback. Summative, which will evaluate the level of mastery of the students on the course, objective, or outcome, and peer or self-assessment to promote their self-awareness to see whether they are able to understand what it is needed or not, and also can allow them to critically think, start them to think whether whatever learning is sufficient or not. So whatever we have discussed just now, the type of interaction is actually can be grouped into this. So it's depending what kind of assessment that you want to do in the classroom. So which one usually we do? We do the middle one. Because in the syllabus, the middle is the one is stated. So you have tests, you have, assignments, and everything will be evaluation on the outcome. But the formative and the peer self-assessment not done a lot because we don't have time. So try to, have a one or two that is embedded inside. So in your weekly teaching or in the topic base, at least something to start going rather than, not having anything. So you have something that you can start going. So now we will do activity together, right? How many of you? We have 131. So including me and the moderator, exclude them.
And we have a few of CPD staff here. I think you can exclude 2 more.
2 more lah. So I just put 100, 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 125, maybe.
Okay.
125 divided by 5 for 25 groups. Okay. So I will put you in breakout rooms. Okay. You can choose your members that you want to work on because you are lecturers. I can't really force you inside. So this is what I want to see from you, because when you come for any course, we want to see some outcome, because obviously the center want to see whether you have learned something from the, few hours of, training they have done. So what, first part, because we haven't gone to the rubric yet. So I want you all to basically do an assessment design for your class. So this is what I do for my class. This is what I do for my class. So this is what I did this week. I did a formative assessment. So I was teaching color models this week. So I want to see the students able to apply or analyze different color models in video and also image processing or not. So I gave both face-to-face and online, because some students did online, some students did it face-to-face in the lab sessions. And so this is the descriptions, right? So I only give them 2 hours because it's 2 hours class session. So I don't want them to spend more time. So within the 2 hours, I give them a very detailed description, step by step to them. So I say that you form a group, because usually form a group, I ask them to use the same group the entire semester. And then I give them the material ready. So they already have the material on the color models. So I ask them to do research with the material and also from outside together with the friends. And then they select one image and one short video from online, download any open source or free or any videos they have. And then they apply the model into the tools, right? So they analyze one by one and they prepare a very short report documenting on what they see when they apply. And then once finished, they have to stand by for 3 minutes presentation, but I will not select all the students. What I do is every class, whenever I do activity, I have a record. So I make sure that I do rotation. So students already presented, sometimes I don't choose. So I choose other group. So I have a random way of choosing. So by this, they have to be prepared. So whoever it is, they have to be prepared. And once they finish everything, they upload all the materials and the report inside the system. So this is how basically I do for my class. So I want you to brainstorm together. Okay, we don't want to see a summative because summative is already there. But if you want to do it again, it's okay. But we want to see how you want to engage the classroom learning. That means this is a topic to teach the students color model. But rather than teaching the student color model, I do a simple assessment. So assessment whereby I give them the material, ask them to try. Okay, Then they finish, they write a simple report saying that, you know, their understanding. So if possible, try to design something like this, and you can use it in your classroom. So rather than your teaching, you can use this kind of things, assessments in the classroom. So student given the material earlier, then when they come to the classroom, they basically do some kind of assessment together to enhance their understanding, right? So now is 10:30. So I'm going to put you in breakout room. I'm going to let you to choose. So I'm going to open 30 rooms. Okay, done. So you move in. So I give you maximum, I think 20 minutes. Maximum 20 minutes. Then I'll call you back. Ken, is it okay?
Is it okay, everyone?
Moderator, okay ke 20 minit?
It's okay. It's up to you.
No, sebab apa? It's just a simple thing. Just have to have some things. You work together and brainstorm, and then we will come back again.
Okay, I think,
We'll
yeah.
have some samples.
I think it's okay.
Yeah. So let me. So can you all join? The rooms are open. Nobody is moving to the rooms. Okay, started. So I'll see you by 10:55. So I'll put a note there. So do simple, don't worry. Just have these three things, and then we will brainstorm later.
Assalamualaikum. Dr. Prasanna need another 5 minutes, so let's wait for her. Hi, Dr. Prasanna. Sorry, we can't hear you. You can hear me, right? But I cannot hear you. Okay, now we can hear.
Oh, okay. So sorry, yes, but tiba-tiba my boss panggil, so I had to rush for a while.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so I just closed the other room, so I hope everybody is back to the main room. So I left you all just now with a question, right? Ask you all to look into assessment design. If can, formative assessment, not the summative, so that you can use it in the classroom. When you go back, when you start your teaching next week or the following week, you can use it. So can we have like a sharing from one or two groups before we move on to the rubric? Anyone? Kalau tak ada, saya terpaksa pilih ya. Macam, as usual, right? When we have our students,
Yes, pilih doktor.
pilih ya, saya nak pilih ni sekarang. Okay. So let's hear from this, the room one, we had quite a number of them inside the room. Habibah, Halina, Muhammad Adli, Nur Hazlinda, Putri. Okay, so can we have what you've been discussing? Can we see what you have?
Can I share our screen?
Yes, of course. You can see the green button in the middle.
Host disable participant screen sharing.
It's
Oh,
okay.
is it? Okay.
Mr. Hilda, can you allow Dr. Adli to share the screen?
Thank you. And I need
Hold on,
Dr. Putri Azlin to help me with this also.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. Thank you, Doctor. So I'll be sharing what we prepared just now.
Mm.
Ya. Doktor letak doktor punya ID sebagai siapa ya nama doktor?
Saya Muhammad Adli Musa.
Kejap, saya tengah mencari Muhammad Adli Musa. Okay.
I think
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I already changed the setting, so I think participants can share now.
Okay. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Okay, Dr. Putri, please help me out.
Oh, okay, you have assistant. That's great.
Okay, so hi everyone. Assalamualaikum. Okay, so this is for my subject, the counseling lab. Okay, so basically this is the assignment for the class, but we tailor-made this for a class activity for only for 1.5 hours. Okay, so basically the students need to do the in our class we have so many role play because this is related to their counseling skills, so they need to show the skills that they have learned. Okay, so the assessment type is formative assessment. Okay, and this is to meet the course learning outcome 1 and 2. Okay, and this is the face-to-face, and the total learning time is about 1.5 hours. Okay, so the title of assignment is mock counseling session. Okay, so in class, this is a normal practice that what we do. Okay, so after we learn about certain techniques, then the students will do a role play. Okay, but sometimes I give them freedom, okay, to go to counseling lab, okay, or any places, okay, to do the record for their session. Okay, hold on. Yeah. Okay, so they will record their mock counseling session. Okay, so it is about only for 15 minutes to demonstrate whatever been learned, okay, on active listening and everything. Okay, so they need to have, okay, the materials needed is only internet. Okay, so they're going to submit their video link, okay, so through our MS Teams. And this is the instruction to students, okay, to choose the relevant topics, okay, to ensure that the topics align with the learning objectives, okay, of our counseling program. Okay, and I listed down here the skills
My
that they
God.
need to show. Okay, the focusing, following. Okay, so it is not necessary to have all, but this may include. Okay, so they have freedom.
But
And actually,
covering.
I encourage our students to use ChatGPT in order to come out with the
Lepas tu
conversation.
tak
So
ada.
they need to get the idea from the Chat GPT, and after that they can revise that, okay, based on what is needed. Okay, and then can we scroll down, Dr. Adli?
Yeah. That's all, Doctor.
Oh, that's all.
The
Okay,
three components: instructions,
all right.
also assessment
Mhm,
details and assessment time.
Okay. I just have a very simple question. So you are basically looking into the application of the counseling techniques, am I right?
Yes.
So so in this case, how you plan to evaluate?
Okay. In the session, okay, because actually there is other instructions over there, okay, that maybe we did not copy paste just now, Dr. Adli.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. That I mentions that in the recording, okay, it has to capture the interaction clearly, okay, in terms of the facial expressions, okay, the body gestures, okay, of the counselors and the client, but focus more on the counselors. Okay, and in class we already learned about how the counselors need to control their intonation. Okay, so when it comes to evaluation, okay, we are going to look back on what have been learned, okay, based on the techniques, okay, not only on these micro skills, but on the attending skills. This one, okay, the session should demonstrate the active listening, empathy. Okay, so we are going to watch the video together. Okay, and I will invite all the members, okay, all the students in the class, okay, to give the comments. Okay, so do the presenters able to demonstrate active listening, empathic expressions? Okay, and when they use YouTube, okay, so they can use the apa tu yang CC itu kan, okay, the one that they can read together, okay, the scripts. So the members of the class as well can give their comments about the techniques that been used. Okay, is the presenter correctly used paraphrasing, summarizing, subdeclosing? Okay, so that's how we do. So it is more on the peer feedback and also feedback from me. Basically, that is what we did in class.
Okay, so so that means this is the whole thing you'll be doing. So how you want to give feedback to the student? Because now we understand that you're doing a kind of assessment that you want to look into the student able to apply appropriate counseling technique or not. So when the student have all the sessions all done, so how are you going to give the feedback to them? Is
Okay,
it
so
going
as
to
I
have
mentioned
some?
just now, okay, in order to give feedback, we are going to look back on the basics elements of what is this focusing, following, okay, on the technique skills, okay, and the feedback is based on my comments about their facial expressions, their intonations, how well did they able to demonstrate their empathic expressions to the client. Okay, so basically based on that.
Okay, so you have an idea how you're going to do that. So very
Yes.
important here. I mean, it's a very good session. Basically, what they have done, they just going to do, going to apply this so that the student able to see. So it's like you have certain themes, certain topic, and it's going to bring in everything together so students will have a better understanding. So this is a kind of assessment that you do, not to evaluate, basically to give marks, to see whether they understand or not. So when you do this, you can have few ways of assessment. One, you can have a simple rubric for you to have some kind of, some kind of assessment to see that, whether they're complying to all the, appropriate techniques or not. And then at the end, you can give them some feedback, or you can also give ad hoc. Sometimes when we design, we don't have time to prepare a detailed rubric. So in those cases, you can have an ad hoc, ad hoc feedback to the student to see where is lacking, what are the things they needed. So when you complete the entire cycle, basically you will know that which are the area, basically all the students struggling. Example, you got like 3 groups presenting. Maybe you have many, maybe you only selected 3 groups to present. So when the 3 group present, you find that all 3 having some issues in reflecting the feeling. Example, so that means you have to go back into your teaching and learning, and you must see, is there anything that you need to improve so that, the students basically will understand better that component, that technique. So these are the things that you can do. So this kind of assessment is not only to give feedback to the student, it's also for us to improve our teaching and learning method. Because sometimes when you are confident in teaching, what happens is you are very confident your materials are sufficient, right? I also feel that sometimes, when I'm doing the tests or quizzes, I feel that, I have given everything to the student. But when I look into the real feedback, when I get, I notice that that particular area is what students struggling. These are the things that's why the rubric is very important. In a while, I'll show you how to design the rubric. We have a system. I will run through the system, but you can also do a manual way lah, because ours is system based. Before we do the system, I was using Excel. So when we have the system, I'm using the system for rubric generation. But in your case, you can use a simple Excel, or you can also use, Word and so on. So I'm not sure your LMS basically support the rubric-based evaluation or not. Is that available, rubric? Not sure. Okay, so thanks a lot to Dr. Adli's group, and I think Dr. Putri just now. Thanks a lot. So can we have one more group to share before we go on to the rubrics? Another one more, something different. If you have something different, can we see? So that you can share with others, and others will have idea how they want to implement in the classroom. Okay, you have, but you do manually. Okay, it doesn't matter as long as you have it. So can we have another one more group, please? If no, I'm going to choose again. This is similar to our classroom, right? Okay. Okay, this time we select randomly from the participant lah. Okay. Okay. Dr. Suhaimi, yeah. Suhaimi or Dr. Suhaimi? Adil? You have anything you have done? Tak ada. Okay. We go back to the room lah. So kita ambil group room 4 lah. Room 4 ada dua, ada Suhaila, Suhaili, Siti Hajar, Nik Rahma, and do you have anything from your group that you want to share? Ini case macam kelas kita lah kan? Kata lain.
Yes, indeed.
Same as our class. So my training please my training session selalu kalau saya buat dalam physical memang semua kena gerak. Tak ada duduk punya. So kalau same lah, kalau online pun I make sure that everybody is there.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning.
Yes, good morning, Dr. Siti.
Dr. Prasanna, I am the representative from Group 4.
Yes.
So
great.
we are from CFS, Center for Foundation Studies, Gambang. So in
Okay.
our group, we have various lecturers from various departments.
That's
So we are
very good.
from biology, chemistry, physics, and maths. So we have decided to choose the topic from biology.
Okay.
Okay. So we chose photosynthesis.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
So actually, to be honest, Doctor, we do chat GPT for the
Yeah.
assignment. Yes.
Yeah, can, no problem.
Okay. If I might share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
I'll ask Hilda to allow you to be the co-host. Your name is Siti Haja Abdullah Sani. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Ada kan? Saya rasa saya dah allow semua participant tadi.
Cuba
You can see
try.
Let me try.
the green
Okay.
button.
Okay.
There.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is just a simple activity. So we are teaching pre-matriculation. We are teaching matriculation students, right? Pre-university. So a simple activity on photosynthesis. So the duration for each session in CFS is around 2 hours, 1 hour to 2 hours. So this is a 10-minute photosynthesis activity. We are going to ask the student to find out more about pigments, right? Pigment and also light, which are the two requirements for photosynthesis. So these are the materials for the fun and engaging activity. So we provide them with white paper, coffee filters, different colors of marker, right? And this is the introduction for 2 minutes, briefly describe the concept of plants, okay, for the process of photosynthesis in general. And then this is the chromatography demonstration. It is a process whereby to separate the pigment if the process occurs in leaf, but for this fun engaging activity, we use white paper color and also the coffee filter paper and different marker, different color of marker. And then this is the experiments, right? The steps by step of the experiment. Okay. And then this is student observation, discussion and observation by the student, right? And then once they are done with this activity, we have a simple case study related to photosynthesis topic. All right. So this is the scenario that they need to they need to understand, right? A class plants of 2 set of beans, and then after they understand, after they are done with the experiment, and then by reading this scenario, they should be able to answer these 3 questions. So we have 3 questions: question number 1, question number 2, and question number 3. And then there's a certain rubric, right, in order to assess based on their answer for question number 1 and also question number 2 and question number 3. So the rubric consists of 4, as you can see here, scale, excellent, good, satisfactory, and 1 mark. So basically, that is the activity that should be done within 1 hour to 2 hours. So the students will be in CFS, we have around 25 students in a class. So student will be divided into small groups, 5 to 6 groups, each group containing 4 students. What do you think, Doctor?
Okay, my feedback is, I mean this should be first year student, right?
Matriculation students, they will spend 1 year here in TFS for 3 semesters.
So that means
Semester
they
1,
are
2, and 3. After
so they
SPM.
are after SPM, right?
Yes.
So I think it's good enough. If possible, try to have some images so that they can see how it looks. Sometimes text is not very clear. They prefer to use visuals. So if you can get visuals on the like example, how to fill up, what the process. If you have image, will be better. If you don't have image, then it's okay. But my concern is down some more further. Okay, wait. Okay, stop. Ask students what happened to colors on filter. Explain sunlight. Okay. This is the one you need to reconstruct, because when you give to a student, this is basically, I feel that it's your copy. So basically you are telling yourself, ask your student. So I assume you took it from ChatGPT.
Yes. We don't have time to edit it.
Yeah. Okay. So instruction should be to the student. That means go up a bit. Go for the go to the first session itself. So you don't do like this, ask your students and so on. So the instruction should be
For the student.
introduction. Yes, for the student. Introduction. Please watch the video to understand the basic concept of needing sunlight to grow. Or please click and download the material and spend about a few minutes understanding the concept of plant needing sunlight. Right?
So the steps should be concise.
Yes, correct. And then second, then only you have, okay, what instruction to the students or task to the student. Number one, draw a white circle with a marker. Number two, number three, because you're talking to a student that's after Form 5. Okay. So you can't assume your students are able to digest. Maybe a master level or degree level who is like maybe in a second year, third year, or even first year, they are able to understand what you're trying to say. But a student that's coming from a school, so usually if you look into the textbook, the instruction is very clear. Number one, number two, number three. So you cannot simply transit them into a different way of instruction. So you have to give them in a more clearer way instruction to them. And then you have a reflection question. Okay. So how they're going to answer the reflection question. Okay. So once you complete the process, right, observe for maybe 5 minutes or 3 minutes, the process of the entire demonstration. And then you ask them to respond to the question given. So this response can be given in a dashboard, can be done in a Jamboard, or can be done in a Google form or something. Ask them to give, what they feel on that. Right. Okay. My another comment is your rubric.
Okay.
Okay.
So if it is a group work, so every single member should get the same mark?
This is not basically on evaluation, right? To look into the mastery level. This is more to see their understanding and see whether they are lacking something or not before they go to the summative. So meaning that this is only to guide the students to say that, okay, you know everything. So when you're doing this, what is the criteria that you're going to use for evaluation? So everybody take note here. When we talk about criteria for evaluation, criteria should be criteria for evaluating. So what is the criteria for evaluation here? Go up again. What is the go up to the first thing? Did you write what is the learning outcome that is targeted? Or what is the domain?
We didn't put the learning outcome.
Yes. Okay. I assume, let's say we assume to actually to look into the understanding of the students on
Synthesis.
The process, right? Correct. So you want to evaluate. So maybe it is evaluating the domain cognitive level. Are they applying level 2 or level 3, something like that. Yes. So the evaluation, the criteria should be for that domain, not to the question.
Okay.
We don't want to do for question because rubric now is basically assigned to evaluate the domain.
Based
So
on learning
this
outcome.
Yes, based on the learning outcome.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So thank you for sharing. So now I will share with you some
Doctor,
example.
can I ask one question?
Yes.
My question is, let's say that the exercise or the hands-on activity, it's not meant to assess, yet to
Yes.
facilitate the understanding of the learning.
Mm.
Yet we understand that the students, when we come upon an assessment, it simply give them an idea where they are standing. So it's not where we stand now, it's where how we are going to tell the student, you know what, I'm going to give you this marks, but this mark is I mean, itulah stand dia nak cari somewhere. What is your comment on this?
Wait, can you repeat stand of the student?
I mean that giving them marks will give them idea at
Okay.
where at par or not they are. Macam tu lah.
Mm. So now you're asking me whether is it necessary for the feedback kind of it we should give marks, is it?
Yeah, in what sense? Should it be number? It should be in what? Qualitative?
Mhm. Okay, so I understand now. Okay, there's actually few ways when you want to give feedback. This is what we call feedback. So you can give a constructive feedback. Constructive feedback meaning that through a simple comment, right? Overall. So when the student, as what I said, you don't want to use rubric because you don't have time, because this is basically class activity, you want to do it. So you want to look into the mastery level, or, you just want to have like 1, 2, 3 understanding of the concept of photosynthesis, able to do the process effectively. Then you want to have a scale of 5 or something for your, evaluation. You can just tick. No, you need to have what you want to look into. So based on that, you give feedback to the students. So upon completing the presentation, you look into whether they're able to explain the understanding, they're able to explain the process or not. Then you can just tell them, okay, this is what lacking. You need to enhance further in your learning. Maybe you can look into the material, or you can look into a certain, maybe you guide them what to do next after that. Not really giving marks, is more on giving feedback to the students on their learning. So those who like to use, like me, I have 90 over students. It's very impossible for me to basically give a feedback constructive to everybody. So what I do is I have a simple, very simple template rubric that I use. Then I will, when the student presenting, I just play around with the template. At the end, I just put a comment. So after the student finish presenting, then I will know, okay, these are the issues. At the end, I can compile all the 3 or 4 groups and then give a summary. So that rubric is, for me, is not to evaluate and give marks, is more to evaluate their understanding and give them feedback. And also look into, is there any problem in my own teaching whereby that particular criteria is not met? Like example, suddenly all the 3 groups are unable to explain the process of photosynthesis properly. One explaining differently, another one another way. So something is wrong somewhere. So I, as an instructor, I need to identify where is the problem. I need to modify either my teaching, or I need to enhance the module that I have.
Right, clear. Thank you.
So this is what I like to use this rubric, because I can really see what is the problem in rubrics, and also the graphs, understanding of the, analyze the, I know it takes a lot of time analyzing the items and so on, but this is very important for, especially for us instructor on the teaching and learning. Okay, let me share. I'm going to show you the exact sample. So let me open the screen first. Voilà. I'm very sure everybody have a different learning management system. I'm just going to show what we have. Okay. Speaking. Just choosing the right one. Okay. Okay, that's the one. Okay. Okay, when we do the, let me show you the outcome first. Okay, so there's actually a few outcome that is targeted to this particular course. Analyze past and current studies, evaluate the application of various techniques, demonstrate the use of data science methodology, and report the presentation, right? So each one of it, they are measuring different domain and they're measuring different level. So whenever we want to create the rubrics, we must make sure that the rubrics can be created for summative assessment, like assignments and so on. Or you can also create for your ongoing, like example, feedback kind, like just now, right? You want to put it in the system and you want the students to, submit inside the system, and you want to let them monitor their feedback also possible. So I'm going to show you the summative first. So whenever you want to create the rubric, okay, rubric. So this is, let me edit first. Okay, whenever you have a rubric, the first thing that you need to identify, okay, whether you want to use a basic rating scale or analytic rating scale. So what is the difference between basic and analytics? Anybody? Anyone? Okay, basic rating scale is something like this. Okay, something like this, whereby you have your criteria for evaluation at the side. And this criteria is based on your domain that you want to measure. And you have a range or a scale. So this scale will be a very general scale that you use, whether you want to see whether it's poorly meet the criteria or minimum, most, and so on. So like just now, the bio, those who did photosynthesis, right? So if you put question, it's very difficult for you to see what is the improvement needed, because questions only will represent the question. It doesn't tell you the ability of the students to understand or to explain and so on. So that is why that when you're doing the rubric, you need to identify the criteria clearly. So what is the criteria that you want to use, right? So based on the criteria, you will set the scales. So the scales you can use basic like this. You can do a very basic. That means you want to see whether the introduction is clear or not, whether well written or not, whether it's poorly made, minimum or most. Or you can also do it in a very detailed manner like this, whereby for each of the what we call component that you're testing, the criteria you're testing, you have a very detailed measurement. So why is it to run a very detailed measurement? Because you will, assuming a course that is taught across by many lecturers. So when you have a very detailed like this, you won't have outliers. Outliers meaning that suddenly lecturer 1, when they mark, they give 80 marks. Suddenly when lecturer 2 mark, they give 60 marks. So you can see outlying in, outliers in marking whereby it's not consistent. So consistent in marking will only happen when you have a very detailed rubric like this. So when you have a very detailed rubric, you won't run very far. It will be within the range. Okay. So that's why that it's very important for you to identify, number 1, the criteria that you want to use. Number 2, the scale that you want to use. So scale, you want to use either analytics or you want to use very basic, you can do that. Okay, then it's much more easier to you to explain. If anybody, let's say even student if student, they want to argue back. Okay, they say that, oh, why I get this mark? So it's very clear because you're marking according to the rubrics and the students are also given the rubrics upfront. So they should know that, oh yeah, I made some mistakes. So how you see whether how the rubric is basically working, I'm very sure every system have their own way of, doing things, but I'll show you one here. So let's say we're doing a reading response. Okay. This can be generated even in Excel because earlier we were using Excel and then later only we transform into system based, right? So example, when you have the criteria for evaluation, so all this criteria is mapping back to the domain that you want to measure. So each of the criteria will tell you the level of the students' achievement or their, their ability to complete that. So you have an average and minimum. So if you see here, average and minimum, some looks okay, some doesn't look okay. So like example, results, right? The average is not so good, right? So what I did this semester, I focused more on how they can analyze the results. So in my slides that I give to the students, I give a lot of samples on how the results can be written, how the results can be displayed in the document, things like that, so that they can, whenever they write, they critically, they can evaluate by looking at some more samples. So I found out that my previous semester students were not able to, really critically evaluate. One of the reason was the samples that I've given was very limited. So what I did this semester, I have increased the samples. I have modified some of the teaching, the way that I'm, teaching, especially in that area. And I want to see how it helps in the coming semester, which is this semester. Can I see some improvement in the results of the students or not? So these are the things that will be really helpful when you're doing the rubric. So that's why that rubric is very important whenever you want to do assessment. One is for the, overall summative, if not for the continuous that you want to do, even if you want to do like example, the photosynthesis just now, right? You can also ask the students to submit in the system as a record. But the only thing now is it's not included in the final marks, but it will be there for them to know that the level of learning for that topic. You can also do that. So the way that you want to adapt assessment in your classroom is how you actually design it. So don't focus only for the end, because what we do mistake is we always focus for the end. Test 1, test 2, final exam, assignment 1, assignment 2. But we forget the continuous feedback for the students is very important so that they know what to do to achieve the final mastery level in that course, so that they can achieve the learning outcome. So what is the purpose of us teaching and giving the assignments or assessment for the student is going back to this basic thing, the course learning outcome. So whatever we give to the students, teach to the students? Are they able to achieve all these learning outcome or not? So how you know? Through the series of assessment that we're going to give to the student. Of course, I never go in detail on the rubric, but it's very basic now with the chat GPT and also with the AI. We can easily generate the criteria, but remember, always look back into the domain that you're going to measure. So if it's going to be cognitive and it's going to be analyzed, then you have to make sure that you have enough criteria to measure that. And second, you decide whether you want to do a very basic rating scale or you want to do a very comprehensive analytic rating scale. Then you can have it done. I have a paper, basically it's not published. Once published, I will pass it to the PIC that contact me, then maybe they can share with you where I have how basically I use rubric in flipped classroom approach for practical skill. So it's not published yet in the journal, waiting for publication. So in that paper, I basically have a very detailed steps, step by step, basically how the intervention is done in the classroom for teaching and learning, how it is adapted in the assignment, and how it is evaluated by using a process of rubric. So all that is there. So you can have a look, a reference if you want to replicate. You can also replicate what I have done in your context and you can also publish. So I don't mind sharing. So it's just that it's not published, waiting, most likely this month will publish. So when published, I'll give to the PIC in charge to be circulated. Then you have a copy of it, teaching and learning together with the assessment. If you apply in the classroom, you can also publish a paper. So you can see an actual simulated classroom environment, and I'll give you the sample. Because we don't really have time to cover everything within 3 hours. But what I can do is additionally, when I have anything extra, I will always give to the PIC in charge, right? So let's go back. So any questions so far? So we have a few more minutes. Is it clear?
At my side, yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so hopefully you all are clear. Okay, leveraging technology is, I won't say is a must because we still have students that's struggling. Even some of you mentioned that some students don't have network, some students don't have, computer, don't have the tools and so on. So leveraging technology in your classroom is something very common now. Everybody is using. Quizzes means all use Kahoot, all use quizzes, all use Google Form, right? You can also alternatively use Microsoft Form or Google Form if you want to give to the students. Let's say suddenly you're doing Kahoot in the classroom and the student cannot attend. They have some issues. You can also do it as a homework base and give to the students who never attend. Or you can have a second copy of maybe in a PDF or even in forms so that the students who are not involved at that moment, they can also participate. Because sometimes even now, when we are having a Zoom, we might have some lecturers basically cannot join because the network is very slow, correct? So what we can do is we can prepare a secondary. That's why if you see, I do have a PDF version. So PDF version, anybody can open. So let's say you can't open the Gamma app also. You can always download it anytime you want and you can refer in a PDF. Same concept, try to look into alternative way in your assessment. So when you're leveraging technology in your assessment, try to look for alternative. So same as peer reviews. Sometimes peer review students are not able to do using Plattler digital board. So they prefer to still use it pen and paper. So you must also consider them. So if they want to use pen and paper, fine, but make sure you scan and attach in your actual document. So these are the things that you can also allow the students rather than being very rigid. My classroom is more on very flexible. I'm not very rigid. So I always, even the assignment questions when I give to them, I try to give personalized base. So I have question 1 and 2. You can choose 1 or 2, how you want to submit. And then the evaluation rubric will be a general one to evaluate both the method they are using, right? So online discussion also same, not necessarily you must use what we call as your LMS. Sometimes LMS student hardly going. So we can use like, you see, like breakout rooms like just now, right? So why I simulated this, you can also use your breakout rooms for your online class. Don't think that, oh, I don't have Zoom account. So for those who don't have Zoom account, you can consider a standard link that you create using Google Meet or Teams, and they use that standard link throughout the semester for all your groups. So maybe in your class, you have 20 groups, so you have to create the 20 links, and students, every time they are in the main room, and you give them that group links. So they will go to the group link. It's not that messy if you really manage. Zoom, no problem because you have breakout rooms. But sometimes, like those who are using Google Meet or they want to use other platform, it's very difficult for them to do the breakout rooms. So what you can do is you can create multiple rooms and ask them to go inside there and discuss. Sometimes students, the smart students, they know what to do. Sometimes the others who are not very sure, you need to guide them. So you need to, create the rooms and give them, okay, now all move to the rooms and discuss. So you have like 10 or 20 links available. So you can randomly enter and see what's happening in the group. So these are the discussion that you can do still in the online environment, not necessarily must use discussion forums, things like that you can do. And very important thing, lastly, that I want to highlight here is whenever you implement the assessment, you need to evaluate. Yeah, very important to have a constructive feedback on the things that you're doing. Because like example, if like you do some activity in the classroom, you need to give feedback to the students. Don't leave it hanging. Like just now, right? When you present, I gave some feedback. I also tell you what are the things that you can do. So these are the things that you have to replicate in the classroom. You cannot let them, oh, okay, done. Okay, good, next. Good, well done. But you must find some things that you can give them feedback, either for improvement purpose or alternatively what else they can do. So this feedback is very important to support their teaching and learning. And secondly, you need to evaluate the effectiveness, right? So how you know the effectiveness of the assessment is by looking at the data just now. So in our case, we have a system that is running. So you have the data on the assessment. Basically, you can see how the quizzes are doing, how the rubrics are doing. So you know the effectiveness, and you can also look into the participation and also interaction of the students in the system in the log, student log. So basically, you can know, okay, what you're doing is working or not. So, and most importantly, continuous improvement is very, very important. So whenever you have certain strategy that you're using, based on the feedback and also student performance, like just now, you need to improve. Teaching and learning, there's no such thing that one thing fit all. It's something about innovating. So I always believe teaching and learning assessment is all about innovation. So as long as you can creatively design and deliver your teaching, I think as long as meet the outcome that is designed, it shouldn't be a problem. So continuous improvement must be there, and we as an instructor must be always ready to tune our classroom to fit into the learning outcome that is needed. So that's very important, continuous improvement. So what you're using this semester might not be same next semester. So you might end up changing a bit the way you deliver. Because although I've been teaching, I did receive a lot of award in teaching and learning. I feel that I still need improvement in my teaching and learning. Every semester, I get feedback from students. I look into the assessment. I look into the rubric. I see what is lacking. I want to improve. So the eager to improve, continuously improve in teaching and learning and assessment must be there. So sometimes, you cannot use the same set of, assignment every semester, because every semester you have something interesting coming up. So you need to change the way you ask the students the questions, right? So this is very important. I did tell you in the, throughout the training, but just to summarize it up. So you need to get the feedback, you need to look into the effectiveness, and continuous improvement should be there, right? So it must be there always. And how you promote the engagement? Okay, coming to the engagement part, the participation incentive that I told you just now. So when you have gamified classroom, so when you have like point system that you want to give to the students, you have some group engaging activity, like, you know, we try to do some activity assessment based just now. These are the things will increase the participation and they want to come to the class. So not that, you know, they know, oh, if I come to this class, I have something that I can do rather than, you know, just sitting and listening. Student nowadays, they don't like to listen to the lecturers. Trust me, it's similar to our kids. We tell them, we advise them, they don't want to listen. So it's more on them exploring themselves. So the best thing is you be the facilitator. You try to have some incentive in the participation. I think everything will go very well. And make sure everybody can join. Inclusive class environment must be there. Always remember, in our class, we might have slow learners. We must prepare for the slow learners, especially in the assessment. When you have slow learners, you try to give them some flexibility in terms of timing to finish, because slow learners, sometimes they take time to read. So they require more time. So these are the things you need to identify, right? So when you identify, you know the students and you make sure that they are also able to complete the work that's given. So inclusive approach is very important, and timely feedback. When you give a timely feedback to the students, they know what is the problem, they try to improve and they try to submit their assessment on time, especially the final submission. So final submission, don't wait until the end. So like example, you have group work that's going on, try to, you know, like in the middle, check and balance, ask the students to present the progress, give them some feedback how they can improve. And then at the end, they have a, you know, at least, you know, 70 to 80% accurate, rather than, you know, submitting at the end, everything is wrong. You have them to finally get assessment that comply to the learning outcome. Okay, so ending, we have another 3 more minutes, right? So assess and reflect, okay? I've been repeating many times, okay? Make sure that the assessment strategy that you're using, you assess them, reflect them. Are you using correctly? And if any, you know, improvement needed, continuous improvement is always there. Collaborate with your peers. So this is also something I will always tell. So if possible, collaborate with your peers. So you engage, you learn from others, and you try to discuss what you're doing. So like what you did just now, right? So you share your one way of doing, another way. So like me, I basically shared about nine technique that I use in the assessment, in a different interaction type that I use for my undergrad and also postgraduate. So you can also adapt those in your classroom. So collaborating with peers, don't think as a competition, because sometimes people feel that, oh, I don't want to share my things, but take it as a sharing that can improve you. So when you share with others, they will give you feedback and you can improve whatever you're doing. So continuous improvement will be there when you collaborate with your peers. Collaborating with peers also will reduce the burden. So sometimes you do only 2, the rest 2 will be done by the other lecturer and you can share. Right? So these are the things that, you know, you can work together, try to work together, do a collaborative assessment together, so that it'll be easy for you, not much work you do, but basically you share a lot of materials together, right? So with that, I end my session. So if you have any questions, maybe I don't mind waiting in the line. So if you have any questions, you can just ask me.
Any question?
All want to go for break. Okay, I give my number because my number is with everybody. So let's say when you're doing something and you want to know more things and you want to use my templates or whatever, my number is there. You can just drop me a text, tell where are you from. So if you need any help, I can give. But anyway, when the paper is published, I'll also give to the PIC, Hilda, I think, was contacting me. I'll give her so that she can email to everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Prasanna.
Yes.
Everybody, please copy.
No, you can just text. My number is everywhere. So this number memang I use from my university time, same number. So I will respond, don't worry. Usually I respond. It's just that if I'm in the meeting or training, I'll respond a bit later, but I will respond on the same day. Okay, so if you have any questions regarding teaching and learning delivery or assessment whatsoever you want to use and so on, you can always contact me. Okay.
Right, so it looks like there is no question, so I think we can conclude and the training session. Thank you, Dr. Prasanna, for sharing with us your wisdom and experiences. And we look forward to having you again in the future, maybe perhaps face to face. Okay. Thank you, and also for the participant, thank you for joining, and then for the rest of you who stayed, despite a long 3 hours training. We hope to see you again next time, inshallah. Let's end with tasbih kafarah surat As. Okay, before we dismiss, let's have a photo session. Can you turn on your camera? So I'm going to take screen by screen. Okay, so I'm at screen number 1. Okay,
Maybe you
let's
can stop sharing first. Oh yeah, you can put the window with Okay. Okay.
Okay, so maybe 30
Gallery.
seconds. Okay, for everyone to turn on their camera. Okay, so I'm going to take the first screen. 1, 2, 3, smile everyone. Okay. Second screen. 1, 2, 3, smile everyone. And the last screen. 1, okay, let me, okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, so I think that will be all. Thank you so much, Dr. Prasanna. By the way, Prof. Mira, she couldn't join us, and she sends her regard to you.
Okay, sure.
Right, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Prasanna.
Yeah, welcome.
Many thanks, Doctor.
Yeah, welcome.